right, something different. Now let's talk about movies. The KwaZulu-Natal Film Commission has hosted a second film, Indaba, after the first was hosted 5 years ago. The focus of the Indaba was to gather all crucial stakeholders to propose strategies for the industry. The film industry in South Africa is credited with bringing in huge revenues and being a major exporter. Let's speak to CFO of the KwaZulu-Natal Film Commission, Nonhlanhla Thanjekwayo. Ms. Thanjekwayo, thank you for being with us. So I understand this was hosted over the last few days. Is that correct?
Good evening, Francis, and to all the viewers. Yes, that's correct. It was hosted the past actually 3 days, with today being sort of a wrap-up session within the government entities.
And were there any bright ideas? I mean, this isn't about watching movies or anything about that. It's about policies to help your goal, which I think is to make KwaZulu-Natal a film production centre.
Yes, that's correct, Francis. So at this year's KZN Provincial Film Indaba, we were ideally looking back at the 5 years since we had the first KZN Film Indaba, and it was an opportunity for us to sort of review all of the work that we've done so far as an organization, the KZN Film Commission, in collaboration with our other stakeholders to advance the growth of the sector. And so the main reason for this particular Indaba was to then converge again and see what successes we've had and all the growth opportunities that are still available, because as we all know, there's been quite a lot of challenges in the past 3 years with, I think, KZN experiencing sort of the most part of those challenges. So we just came together just to see how we can further collaborate with the filmmakers within the province, as well as other government entities, to just make sure we rebuild and grow the KZN film industry further.
Well, since you hosted this 5 years ago, I mean, there's been COVID-19, and then there's been unrest in Durban, there's been flooding. So I'm sure your province is feeling the impact of that. How exactly has filmmaking been affected?
Especially with the COVID, so with COVID, what it did, it restricted how films were shot and how filmmakers worked on sets. The biggest impact was the regulations that were implemented by government to sort of prevent the spread of COVID-19 affected filmmakers by adding to the production costs. And so as government, we had to come in with some of that support. But obviously, being a government, we can't always patch up wherever there are holes. So filmmakers in the province, especially, experienced increased costs for production in an already quite expensive sector. With the flooding, obviously, there were a lot of productions that were going on in the province that had to be halted. And I'm sure you know that any delay in a production, be it a day or an hour or 2 hours, ends up in additional costs. So that was the main impact. It impacted negatively financially, because at the end of the day, whenever there is a budget increase, usually the filmmakers need to then fork out of their own pockets in order to cover those costs. Yeah,
and what are the big ideas coming out of this Indaba to change things, to help? So at this year's film Indaba, so how we hosted the Indaba, we had quite a few presentations from our various stakeholders and other industry bodies, like your National Film and Video Foundation, your industry organizations like the eThekwini Filmmakers Association and SASFED, as well. We also had SABC as the public broadcaster, presenting to the filmmakers in terms of what opportunities are available for filmmakers in the industry. So post that, we had also various breakaway workshops
where we then discussed various areas within the film industry, as well as areas that needed to be further given attention to. So, for example, your film servicing, the transformation within the industry, because that is another struggle that we see, where the industry is not transformed as yet. We had to look at funding and the difficulties and the red tape that filmmakers experience during applications for funding. We had to look at industry coordination as well, in ensuring that both as government entities, but as filmmakers as well, they need to sort of organize themselves in collectives so that they're speaking in one voice and approaching government for assistance and speaking in one voice. So those were the main topics that were covered, and we received a lot of feedback, and we also had resolutions that came out of the Indaba that now the KZN Film Commission has to work on implementing until the next Indaba happens.
All right, and finally, if everything comes together, where are the big opportunities? And you can talk about KwaZulu-Natal or the country, because we hear of South African films getting a global audience, streaming, so it's not only the SABC or the local audience. To what extent is KwaZulu-Natal a destination for shooting, for international films, for example? Where is the exciting future?
So the exciting future is especially KZN. I think KZN has very good locations and sellable and international looking locations for film. It's one of the few places where you can find city, sea and bush all within one province, and it's within a drive. So there's a lot of opportunities in KZN. Within the film industry, it's still a growing industry as well. So wherever there's still room for growth, I think there's a lot of opportunities for filmmakers. We have a lot of emerging filmmakers that we support. So there's still opportunities for further skills development, further opportunities for bursary opportunities for those that want to study in film. And then I think KZN as a whole, in terms of the film industry, is very exciting at the moment, and we do urge filmmakers that want to shoot their films in KZN to definitely come to KZN. And we, I think, have worked hard and working closely with the different municipalities to just make sure that KZN is film friendly. And I think as the KZN Film Commission, we've made great strides in that regard. And obviously there's always more work to be done, but I think so far we've made great strides in making sure that KZN is film friendly.
All right, and we appreciate your time. Following that, Indaba, Nonhlanhla Thanjekwayo, CFO of KwaZulu-Natal's Film Commission.